Triple Cross Clothing on Instagram says, love it, Brian Rose. Keep talking truths. I appreciate you as well. And Smacker Neil on Instagram says, I'm an Aussie native and I buy and hold digital assets and DeFi ECTs. Good man. I like that, Smacker. And I am an investor in DeFi as well, and I am buying and holding these things just for the future. And by the way, that was Reddy that just joined us inside the Academy, so congrats, Reddy. We will see you there on our first live call on the 21st. Get in the Facebook group right away, upload your introduction video. The people in that group are next level. I mean, seriously, we have some amazing people with incredible experience, great trading experience, amazing insights. Some of these people have already invested in some of these DeFi companies. I mean, it's an elite group of people. I couldn't be more excited to get in here and kick this off. So let me talk about section 2 here. And I want to talk about my personal background in finance and tell you my story. You might enjoy this story. And again, feel free to put your questions in here. And I want to talk about my whole journey. This is a picture of a trading floor in New York City. And this is a little bit like what my trading floor looked like back in 1993 when I was at Bankers Trust. Mine was actually bigger than this. It was massive, and it was incredibly a lot to take in, if I'm honest with you. And let me tell you a little bit about myself first, because I was recruited at MIT back in 1993 by all the investment banks and trading companies in America. And I'm going to put another slide up really quick here as well and show you some of the things that we would look at back in the way and some of the things I'm looking at right now. And this is, by the way, options volatility on Bitcoin. And the reason I put this up right now is because my 15 years of experience on Wall Street will allow me to decode this diagram for you. And this shows, by the way, call option and put option, buys and sells, and blocked plays currently on Bitcoin. And this tells you a lot about what's going on in the marketplace. It also tells you about what's going on with volatility. You can actually buy and sell volatility in the marketplace. And there's a lot of interesting metrics like option delta, gamma, and theta that you need to understand when it comes to these markets. And again, I'll come back to that diagram shortly, but my experience on Wall Street allows me to process that. So again, back to my story. Back in 1993, I was sitting at MIT. I was actually back in 1992, and I had just had 2 summer jobs in engineering companies. I worked at Ford Motor Company for the summer, which was amazing because I had a Ford Mustang when I was a kid, and I thought I wanted to be a mechanical engineer my whole life. And I worked there, and I looked around, and I said, I don't want to be one of these guys who at 60 years old is making 50 grand a year, and he's living in Michigan. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. So the next summer, I worked for the Aerospace Corporation in Los Angeles. This was a special consultancy for the United States government. We worked on aerospace projects and space projects. I worked on the Galileo space probe for 2 summers, actually. And then I looked at that and I thought, I don't really want to do this. And then I saw the movie Wall Street and I got excited about options and stocks and finance. I started taking classes at the Sloan School of Finance. They actually let the undergraduates do that at MIT. And I was crushing it. So here I was, some 20-year-old kid, and I was smoking all these 27-year-old MBA students who had just come back from their careers on Wall Street to learn options at MIT, and they didn't understand, quadratic equations like I did, and so we were smoking them in there. And I took accounting, options pricing, financial theory, and after that taste, I thought, I'm going straight to Wall Street. And so a bunch of banks, investment banks came and interviewed me. I flew from Boston to New York City. I put my best suit on I could, and I interviewed, and it was an incredible experience. There's a picture of me graduating from MIT. This is, I think, in May of 1993, and literally, a few months later, I packed a van, all my stuff in a van, and drove from Boston to New York City, and I started my career on Wall Street. And the reason Wall Street was looking for engineers is because they needed smart math and engineering students to price these complex derivative instruments. And that's why they went and found me. And I still remember my interview. I still remember my first day at Bankers Trust. It was on the 33rd floor of Bankers Trust Plaza, which was the building right next to the World Trade Center before it got knocked down, right, in 2001. And on one side of the 33rd floor, you could look right into the building. You could see all of Uptown Manhattan. On the other side, you could see the Statue of Liberty. And I would walk up there and I'd literally pinch myself. I'm like, I must be in a movie. And there was a massive trading floor as well. It must have been 300 people on there, all open plan floor, people yelling, people swearing, alpha males threatening people. Sometimes there were fights, millions upon tens of millions of dollars being made. Guys in their 20s that were macking it with penthouses in New York City. I mean, it was crazy. And I loved every minute of it. And I learned how to price and trade some of the most complex derivative transactions in the world. I traded hundreds of millions of dollars worth of US government treasuries. I traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I traded on the Chicago Board of Trade. And they gave me a phone and said, go for it. I was 22 years old and running a massive, massive book of risk. And I learned all about how to trade. And it's a complex idea. And it's not easy to do. And you need to know how to check your emotions, and you need to know what's going on. And our job was to create these complex options and financial instruments and package them for our clients that were corporates, that were institutions, et cetera. And when I started looking into the DeFi space months and years ago, I looked at what's happening now and I thought, wow, I haven't seen this in 30 years. 30 years ago, we had rocket scientists doing what they're doing right now in the past 12 months in the DeFi space. And it's growing at a rate that's incomprehensible to me. The things that are happening right now in decentralized finance on some of these incredible platforms took Wall Street 30 or 40 or 50 years to create and innovate. I'm telling you, some of these yield farming things that are going on where you can take your crypto assets and earn yield on them took the financial markets of Wall Street 20 years to create. And they're still not as transparent and liquid at what's happening in decentralized finance today. I'm telling you, from someone who's been in this business for 15 years and started 30 years ago, I recognize what incredible things are happening here. And that's why we're deciding to go all in on this.